Okay, pads are in. You see? Right there. Plenty of pad compared to the old ones. Now, the caliper, you need to depress this caliper. And how you do that is you have to find something to pry on. I usually use these teeth right here where my second finger is, and an old brake pad. So I usually do that, and then I have to depress that caliper. You have to depress it all the way in. Now the only problem with this, just so you know, is that when you start depressing that caliper, what will happen is, I'll show you. You need to check your master cylinder level, because that'll actually push fluid into the master cylinder, and if it's full, then it will overflow. That's not a good thing. So, see, it's a 3.0 VTEC. Really bomb-proof engine as far as the engine goes. Transmissions aren't really great. So here's the master cylinder right here. Relationship to the car. It's on the driver's side, obviously. It's the vacuum booster right here. It's pretty full since I just flushed it. So what we're going to do, we're going to take some fluid out. So, since I work at a hospital, it's really easy to obtain a syringe. So I'm going to suck it out. It's actually sterile, so you just don't want any dirt or anything getting in there. Suck out a little bit. You don't want to suck from the bottom, suck from the top. And dispose of the brake fluid. I have a container. See, you can use like a thing with brake fluid. It actually eats plastic over time. I have a container right here. I'll go ahead and dump it. It's got a little bit of oil in it. I'm only going to put about 2 ounces of brake fluid in there, so I'm not worried about it. And then we'll go from there. So every time you take fluid, you want to take fluid out if it's getting pretty full. So that's what I'm going to do. Just make sure you wipe around the cap real good. Let's not get dirt in there. If you do get dirt in there, then you have to replace your master cylinder, and that's about $150 for the part. Probably pay somebody about $200 in labor, I can imagine. I've done them. They're not too bad on a Honda. The part's just expensive. Like I said, about $150 for the part alone, and it contains the reservoir, and you can see right here, that metal thing right here, that's the brake line. That whole piece will need to get replaced because there's actually seals in there to push the fluid in. So we're gonna wipe this off real good. Show you, since there's 2 wires that tells you when your brake fluid is low. Mine is not. So yeah, and like I said, brake fluid will take off paint. So very, very, you just don't want to spill any. So, and I'll use the syringe and I'll take some out. I'll probably take it to about halfway between out and full, and I'll go from there. Okay, so see the piston right here? Flush against the caliper. And how I did that, I used the old brake pads. I actually make a tool for this too, but I didn't have it. So what I did is I just put them in like this, and then I just push with my palm against the thing. Just be careful of the brake line again. You don't bend that, or I should say break it. It's flexible, but you put a hole in it, you're in big trouble. So put the caliper on, with the wheel on, and we're done. And that is pretty much how to do brakes on a 2000 Accord EX V6 on the front. Pretty much the same on the back, though. Only you have to screw in the piston. So there'll be an X through the piston like this. It'll be solid. You'll have to turn it to get it in, and it'll push itself in. So that's kind of nice. So don't try to push it in, it'll break it. So, alright, this has been, like I said, front brake pads on the 2000 Accord EX V6 fronts. Okay, so I ran into a little bit of an issue here. There's a nut right here. As soon as I tightened this bolt right here, the nut right here that has this boot on it started to turn. So what I did is I used a pair of vice grips, pretty small, just clamped that down. It doesn't take too much force to get that nut to stay still, and then I just tightened it. See, even the weight of just the vice grips alone is holding it into place. So you may have to do that. Sometimes on Hondas, there's a big long bolt that goes through the caliper. You want to make sure you grease that real good with this high temp urea grease. But these are just the short ones, so you have to hold the nut still. So when you get in there, I haven't driven the car yet. The brake pedal. You don't want to go all the way down to the floor. It's going to go down, and that's normal. So you're just going to step down until it starts getting hard. There it goes. You don't want to go all the way down the floor. That will ruin that master cylinder that we talked about. And it's hard, so it feels good. So now we can go for a test drive, and it should be fixed. So I saved myself probably about $200 today. So it took me about an hour and a half. I took my time. Somebody came over and looked at my laminate, so in my kitchen. So didn't take too long at all. Definitely worth the time it took to do it. Once again, this has been the brakes on a Honda Accord V6 two-door, and this one's got 158,698, and almost due for an oil change here pretty soon. So the maintenance required light's not blinking, so that should be good. But she sure runs good with 158 on it, almost 159. I did a valve adjustment recently, and that really helped for it to run smoother. You see the RPMs moving because of the ACs clicking on and off like it should, but it's totally normal. This is one of the best cars that me and my wife have ever owned. Hardly had to do anything. These brakes, my back brakes, and motor mounts, and valve cover gaskets, which were not expensive. So overall, these cars are great. Pretty low maintenance as long as you keep up on the transmissions on the automatics. So the automatics have problems with the second clutch, so you start to get slippage in them in the 4-cylinder, mostly the 6 though, and this is a 6-cylinder. So far, just draining and filling that transmission, I do it at least once a year. Haven't had any issues with it. It's been better than when I bought it. So I bought it with about 110,000 on it. So it's been a great car, just normal maintenance stuff. So here's the test drive. I like to go to kind of a church parking lot. Hopefully there's not too many people in here. There's a church down the road from me here. I drive very far, and come down here where there's no cars, and I like to just really test these out. And sometimes that film stuff will still be on those rotors, so I like to slam on them real good, just to make sure the car is going to stop nice, and that that film stuff's all worn off, and you just burn it off, literally. So we'll go ahead and do that. So the car's in drive right now, and I just like to punch it and just slam on the brakes here. So you can kind of see that that's what I'm doing here. So this car stops really fast compared